The adoption hall on the space station was bright, but it did not feel warm. White lights buzzed over long metal benches. Hologram posters on the walls showed happy families smiling with their new children. But in the far corner, one small alien girl sat alone. Hugging her knees, her skin was pale blue. Her hair thin and silver, and her big dark eyes kept watching the door, as if she was waiting for someone who never came. Around her neck hung a plastic tag with her number and species. At the bottom of the tag, in red letters, one word was stamped: rejected. Someone had tried to stick a label over it, but the red word still showed through in her small hands. She held a broken metal toy shaped like a star. One point was snapped off long ago. She rubbed it with her thumb whenever she felt scared. Her name was Leary, but most people did not use it. They called her the alien girl, or that one in the corner. She had been in the hall for as long as she could remember. Days all felt the same: breakfast, waiting, checkup. Waiting, lights off, waiting in the dark. Leary watched other children come and go. Some cried when they arrived and smiled when they left. Holding a new hand, none of them ever sat in the corner as long as she did. When she was younger, Leary used to run to the door every time it opened. Maybe this time, she thought, maybe someone will want me. She would stand as straight as she could and try to smile, but one day changed that. A tall alien couple came in and asked the staff for something special. The workers brought Leary forward and spoke about her rare energy readings. They said she had strange power. They thought that would impress the couple. Leary got nervous. Lights above them began to flicker and flash. A glass panel cracked with a sharp sound. Nobody was hurt, but the couple jumped back in fear. The woman hissed, "Dangerous." The man pushed Leary away like she was dirty. "Defective," he said. From that day, Leary stopped running to the door. She went back to the corner and stayed there. Today looked like any other day. The air smelled like metal and cleaning spray. Soft music played from hidden speakers. Families walked through the hall. Talking in low voices, staff smiled and bowed, showing them the children they thought would be easy, healthy, simple. Leary held her broken star and kept her eyes on the floor. It hurt less if she did not look when people passed by. One young worker walked by her without stopping. His hands were full of data pads. He was tired and annoyed. Under his breath he muttered, "Nobody wants to adopt you. Why are you even still here?" He thought Leary would not hear him. But the hall was quiet. The words hit her like a stone. Leary's chest felt tight. She pulled her knees closer and hid her face. In her mind, she agreed with him. "Nobody wants to adopt me," she thought. "Nobody ever will." Maybe she really was broken. Maybe she should never have been born. A small shake ran through her hands. The metal star clicked softly against her tag. Near the entrance, a human man was watching. His clothes were simple: worn boots, dark pants, a plain jacket with old stains. His hair was dark. His face looked tired, but his eyes were calm and serious. His name was Ethan. He had told himself he was only here to look, only to ask a few questions. But his eyes kept returning to the small girl in the corner. A gray-skinned staff member came to his side. "Welcome, human," he said smoothly. "We have many healthy social children. Very good choices for a first adoption." He pointed toward a group of laughing kids. "These ones are stable, no problems, easier for you." Ethan did not look at them. His gaze stayed on the girl with the rejected tag. He saw how the other worker passed her without a smile. He had seen the way her shoulders rolled in when she heard those cruel words. Something inside him twisted. He knew what it was like to feel thrown away by the world. "What about her?" Ethan asked quietly, nodding toward the corner. The staff member's smile faded a little. "That one is complicated," he said. "Old medical files, strange tests, emotional issues. She is not a good match. My advice, choose someone easier. You don't want trouble in your home." Ethan didn't answer. He watched Leary's small shaking hands around the broken star. She did not look dangerous. She looked afraid, alone, and so used to pain that she expected it. On the other side of the room, Leary tried to make herself smaller. She did not see Ethan at first. She did not see the way he was staring at her, like she mattered. She only heard his footsteps when they started coming closer. Steady and slow, the staff frowned in surprise as Ethan walked away from them. Families turned their heads, wondering what he was doing. Leary felt a shadow fall across her. Her fingers froze around the metal star. Slowly, she lifted her head. A human stood in front of her. His eyes were steady. Not afraid, not cruel, just kind. In that quiet moment, before he said a single word, the life of the alien girl nobody chose began to change. Ethan stood in front of the small alien girl. But he didn't speak right away. He crouched slowly, lowering himself until he was at her eye level. Leary kept her arms tight around her knees, her thin shoulders shaking. She looked at him through her silver hair like a frightened animal waiting to be hit. Ethan didn't reach for her, didn't force a smile, didn't make a sound. He just stayed there, calm and steady, like he had all the time in the world. From behind him, the staff worker hurried over. "Sir, please, don't waste your time," he said in a soft but frustrated tone. "This one is not good for humans. She has issues." He leaned closer and whispered harshly, "Powers, accidents, problems you don't want." Ethan didn't turn around. His eyes stayed on Leary's. "What's your name?" he asked quietly. Leary flinched as if the question was too heavy. Her voice came out small and cracked. Leary." Ethan nodded slowly. "That's a beautiful name." Leary's fingers tightened around her broken star toy. She didn't believe him. Nobody ever said her name in a kind voice. She had almost forgotten how it sounded when spoken with warmth. The worker sighed loudly. "Sir, please look at the database. We have many better options. This one is not stable." He reached out as if to pull Ethan away. But Ethan moved first, rising to his feet with a calm expression. "I want to talk to her," he said firmly, not loud, but strong enough that the worker stepped back. Other families nearby began whispering. A human choosing that one, the rejected one, the dangerous one? Impossible. Humans were known for adopting calm, safe children, not unstable alien girls with strange energy readings. Ethan knelt again, softer this time. "Leary," he said gently. "Can I sit next to you?" Leary blinked. Confused, nobody asked her things. They told her things, ordered her, moved her like furniture. She gave the smallest nod. Ethan sat on the floor beside her, not too close, but close enough for her to feel his presence. "What happened to your toy?" he asked quietly. She held it up a little, the broken metal star catching the light. "It broke," she said. "Nobody wanted to fix it." Ethan smiled weakly. "Maybe they didn't know how." Leary's eyes lifted to him again. Uncertain, her voice dropped to a whisper. "You don't have to stay. They tell everyone not to pick me." "I know," Ethan said softly. "They told me too." Leary waited, expecting him to stand up and leave now that he had said it. That was how it always happened. Someone noticed her. Then they heard the warnings. Then they walked away, leaving her colder than before. But Ethan didn't leave. He reached out his hand, not grabbing her, not touching her, just placing it near her feet on the floor. A simple gesture that meant choice. "I don't walk away that easily," he said. Leary's breath caught. She wanted to believe him. But she had believed before, and the pain of being wrong still lived inside her like a shadow. The staff worker clapped his hands sharply. "Enough," he said. "Sir, step aside. We have rules." Ethan rose to his feet slowly, turning to face him. "What rule says I can't talk to her?" The worker opened his mouth but couldn't answer. Instead, he forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Sir, she is unstable. She could use her abilities without control." Ethan frowned. Has she hurt anyone? The worker hesitated. Not exactly. But accidents. That's enough, Ethan said firmly. I will decide for myself. He turned back to Leary and held out his hand again. This time his voice was gentle but sure. Leary, do you want to leave this place? Her heart jumped in her chest. Her fingers pressed so hard into the metal star that it left marks on her skin. She had dreamed of hearing those words, but dreams were dangerous things. They hurt when they disappeared. Why? She whispered. Why would you take me? Because no one should sit alone in a corner, Ethan replied. Not you. Something inside Leary cracked like ice melting after a long, dark winter. Her eyes burned, but not from fear, slowly shaking. She reached out her small hand toward his. The worker shouted, Sir, you cannot take her without approval. Ethan didn't look back. His hand closed around Leary's gently, warm and steady. Then start the approval, he said. Because she's coming home with me on the upper balcony. A small security drone recorded everything. A silent red light blinked, sending the footage to someone far away. Someone who had been waiting for this moment. Leary didn't see the drone, she only saw Ethan. The first human who hadn't walked away, the first person who chose her. And in that moment, her life shifted forever. Ethan's small apartment was quiet when the door slid open. The hallway smelled faintly of warm metal and recycled air. A soft light hummed from the ceiling, gentle and not too bright. He stepped inside first, then turned to look at Leary, who still stood in the doorway, frozen like someone facing a trap instead of a home. It's all right, Ethan said softly. You can come in. Leary clutched her broken star toy so tightly that her blue knuckles turned pale. She peered inside the apartment as if expecting someone to shout at her or push her back out. Homes were places that vanished, places that rejected her. Homes were not safe after a long moment. Leary stepped over the threshold, one foot, then the other. Her eyes moved everywhere: walls, chairs, a small table. A shelf with a few books, things she had only seen in passing when families walked by the adoption hall. This place felt different, quiet, almost warm. And that scared her more than the hall ever did. Ethan didn't rush her. He placed his bag down on the counter and moved slowly, careful not to startle her. You must be hungry, he said, opening a food unit and taking out a warm packet. I can make something simple. Leary blinked, surprised. For me? Ethan smiled softly. Yes. For you. She didn't know how to answer. She looked at the floor, unable to explain the strange feeling twisting inside her chest. Humans were confusing. Humans were kind, and kindness felt dangerous. Ethan placed a bowl of warm food on the table, but she stayed standing near the door. You can sit, he said gently. It's yours. Leary shook her head quickly. Homes don't stay, she whispered. If I sit, you will tell me to leave. Ethan's heart tightened. He had expected fear, but not this deep, hopeless kind. Leary, he said quietly, walking toward her with slow steps. I'm not going to send you away. She didn't lift her head. They all say that. Before Ethan could answer, the lights flickered once, then again. A cup on the table rattled, almost rising before dropping back down. Leary gasped and pulled her hands to her chest. Shaking, I'm sorry, she whispered quickly. I didn't mean to. Please don't be mad. I'm not mad, Ethan said at once, stepping closer. It's okay, but she backed into the wall, tears building in her eyes. When I get scared, things move. They said I'm dangerous. They said I break things. I don't want to break your home. Ethan knelt, positioning himself lower than her shaking frame. You didn't break anything, he said. And you're not dangerous, you're scared. That's not the same. Leary stared at him, confused by the calmness in his voice. She had always expected yelling, punishment, or cold hands forcing her still, but Ethan's voice held none of that. He stood and walked to the small bedroom, opening the door. This is your room. he said. Your bed, your blanket, your space. Leary peeked inside from afar. The room was small but clean. A soft blanket lay on the bed. Light blue, matching her skin, a small lamp glowed warm yellow. She had never had a bed all to herself, but she didn't move forward. Instead, she whispered, "Are you testing me?" "Testing you?" Ethan repeated, confused. "That's what they did," she said. Her voice thin. "They pretended to be kind. But it was a test, if I touched anything wrong. They punished me, if I made a sound too loud. They punished me." Her hands shook. "I don't want to fail again." Ethan's face hardened not at her, but at whoever had done this to her. He took a slow breath. Calming himself before speaking, "Leary, listen to me carefully," he said. "Nothing here is a test." Leary stared at him, her breathing shallow. "You don't have to earn this home," Ethan said. "You're not here because you passed something. You're here because I chose you." The words hit her like a warm wave, almost painful in their gentleness. She took a tiny step forward, then another, entering the room fully for the first time. The blanket called to her like something soft she had only seen in dreams. She touched the fabric with trembling fingers, expecting it to be pulled away, but it stayed. "It's soft." She whispered, surprised. "It's yours," Ethan repeated. "No one will take it from you, for the first time." Leary sat on the bed, her body relaxed just a little, like a small animal learning it might not be hunted anymore. Ethan watched from the doorway, not wanting to crowd her. "You're safe here," he said quietly. "I promise." But he didn't notice the small blinking light in the hallway ceiling, a hidden surveillance node recording everything, sending it to someone who had been searching for Leary for a long time. Outside Ethan's door, a shadow paused, listening, then walked away swiftly, sending a message. "The rejected asset has been located." Asterisk, the first night in Ethan's apartment should have been peaceful. But it wasn't. Long after Ethan went to his own room, Leary sat awake on her new bed, curled under the blanket. Her wide, dark eyes stared at the soft lamp glowing beside her. She touched the fabric again, gentle, warm. Real and fear rose inside her like a shadow. Homes don't stay, she reminded herself. Kindness doesn't stay either, even with the blanket wrapped around her. She kept expecting the door to slam open and someone to drag her away. It had happened before, many times around midnight. Leary's breathing became fast and uneven. She blinked hard, trying to stay awake. But exhaustion won, and her eyes closed. The nightmare followed instantly. She was back in the cold white lab. Strapped to a metal chair with glowing cuffs, scientists walked around her, whispering words she didn't understand. Too unstable, unpredictable readings. Test again. A sharp burning pain hit her head. The lights above her exploded. The room filled with screams, then everything went black. Leary jolted awake with a silent gasp. Her hands shook violently. The lamp flickered, the bed frame trembled, and the glass of water on the table slid toward the edge. Before it could fall, a voice appeared at her door. "Calm and steady, Leary," Ethan said, stepping inside. "It's okay." "I'm here." She curled into herself. Hands pressed over her ears. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Please don't send me back." Ethan moved slowly, sitting on the floor beside her bed instead of rushing forward. He kept his voice low. "You had a nightmare," he said. "It's not your fault. But I broke things," she whispered, pointing to the trembling lamp. "So?" Ethan asked gently. "You didn't hurt anyone. And things can be fixed." Leary looked at him in shock. No one had ever said those words to her, not once, when her breathing calmed. Ethan handed her the water again and watched her take small, shaky sips. Her hands slowly stopped trembling. The room returned to stillness. "Leary," Ethan said softly, "I want to understand. What happened to you before the adoption hall? Why are you so afraid?" Leary hugged the blanket tighter around her small body. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "If I tell you, you will leave." "I won't," Ethan said immediately. "You will," she whispered again. "Everyone does after they hear the truth." Ethan shook his head. "Tell me anyway." Leary looked at the floor for a long time. Her voice shook as memories returned like cold hands grabbing her. "I was born with energy inside me," she said. "My kind has powers, but mine were too strong. Too strange." She lifted her hand slowly, and the lamp bulb glowed brighter by itself. Then dimmed again. "When I was small," she continued, "they took me from my mother and put me in the lab." Her voice cracked. "They said they wanted to help me control it. But they lied." Ethan listened, jaw tight. "They made me do tests every day," Leary said. "Tests that hurt. Tests that scared me. When I cried, they punished me. When I got scared, things exploded." The room around them flickered gently at the memory, but Ethan stayed calm. "One day, something went wrong," Leary whispered. "I got too scared, too fast. The lights burst. The machines fell. Someone got hurt, maybe more than one." Her eyes filled with tears. "After that, they said I was too dangerous to keep. They didn't want me anymore." Ethan felt his chest burn with anger, not at her, but at the monsters who had done this. "So they just threw you away?" he asked, voice low. "They sent me to the adoption hall," Leary whispered. "But not to find a family. They wanted to hide their mistake." Her voice trembled again. "If someone adopted me, they didn't care. If no one adopted me, they didn't care. They just wanted me gone." A painful silence filled the small room. Ethan took a slow breath. Controlling his anger, "Leary," he said, "you are not a mistake." She didn't believe him. "They said I was. Then they lied," Ethan replied. "You are not dangerous. You are a child who was hurt." He looked at her with steady determination. "And I'm not leaving you, not ever." Leary's eyes widened at the word ever. A word she had never heard from anyone meant for her. Before Ethan could say more, a faint tapping sound came from the hallway outside the apartment. Ethan froze, his instincts sharpened. Someone was there, someone listening. Someone who had no reason to be outside his door at this hour. Ethan stood quietly and walked to the door, opening it fast, but the hallway was empty, cold, silent, too clean, except a small data chip lay on the floor, placed right at the center of the doorway. Ethan picked it up, reading the glowing words on its surface. "Return the girl, or lose everything." Ethan barely slept after finding the threatening data chip. He sat on the couch for hours, turning it over in his hands, reading the same glowing words again and again. "Return the girl, or lose everything." He didn't know who sent it, but he knew exactly what it meant. Someone powerful knew Leary was here, someone who wanted her back. And not for anything good. Leary slept curled under her blanket, unaware of the danger creeping closer. She looked peaceful for the first time since he met her. Her silver hair spread across the pillow like soft threads of moonlight. Ethan checked on her twice, making sure she was breathing calmly, making sure no shadows lurked outside her window. Morning came too fast. Leary woke up with her broken star toy still in her hand. She blinked at Ethan, who had stayed awake all night. "You didn't sleep," she whispered. "I wasn't tired," he lied with a gentle smile. "Are you hungry?" But before she could answer, a loud, violent bang shook the apartment door. Not a knock, not a visitor, a command. Leary jumped, her toy falling from her hands. The lights flickered instantly as fear surged through her. Ethan's heartbeat hammered in his chest. He placed himself between her and the door, raising one hand to calm her. "Stay behind me," he whispered. "Don't move." Another bang, harder this time, echoed through the apartment. Then a muffled voice shouted from the other side, "Open the door. Station security." Leary shook her head, trembling. "They found me," she whispered. "They always find me." Ethan didn't move. "You're safe," he said. Though even he wasn't sure, the threats he saw in the lab reports, the fear in her nightmares, they were real. Now they were standing outside his door. The voice shouted again, sharper, "We have orders. The alien child must be surrendered immediately." Orders? Just like the lab, just like the scientists, Ethan clenched his jaw, fury rising. Surrender her for what? He yelled back, "She's a child." A pause, then the cold reply came. "She is classified as unstable weapon material. She must be returned for containment." Leary gasped and covered her ears. "No," she cried softly. "Please. I don't want to go. Don't let them take me." Ethan turned instantly and cupped her face gently with both hands. "Look at me," he said firmly. "I'm not letting anyone take you. Open the door or we break it down." The voice boomed like thunder. Ethan grabbed Leary's hand and moved her into the bedroom. He crouched in front of her. "Leary, listen," he whispered. "You need to stay quiet. You need to stay calm. Try not to use your powers, okay?" "I'm scared," she whispered, tears sliding down her cheeks. "I know," Ethan said, "but you are not alone anymore." He brushed a tear from her cheek. "I chose you, remember? And I'm choosing you again right now." He closed the bedroom door and stepped back into the living room, hands clenched, breath heavy. The banging never stopped. 5 seconds later, the locks on the apartment door exploded inward with a burst of force. Metal pieces flew across the room. Slamming into the walls, the door crashed open, and 3 armored security officers stormed inside, their laser rifles raised. "Step away from the child," the front officer ordered. "You are interfering with federal containment procedures." Ethan faced them head-on. "She's not a weapon," he said. "She's a little girl. She caused casualties," the officer said coldly. "She is a danger to the public." "No," Ethan replied, stepping closer. "She was a child hurt by experiments you never should have done." The officers didn't argue. They leveled their rifles at him. "If you continue to resist, we are authorized to detain you." The bedroom door creaked open slightly. Leary peeked out, her small eyes wide with terror. The officers swung their rifles toward the movement. "Target sighted." Leary froze like prey caught in the spotlight. Her heart beating too fast, her fingers trembled. The broken star toy she had been holding all night vibrated in her hands. Ethan moved instantly, standing in front of her, arms spread. "Don't you point a weapon at her!" He yelled. The officers adjusted their aim. "Move aside," they ordered, "or we will open fire." Leary felt something inside her snap, not like anger, but like something ancient waking up. Energy pulsed under her skin. The lights flickered wildly, the air vibrated. The officers stepped back in fear. "What is she doing?" Ethan grabbed her hand before her fear exploded. "Leary, look at me," he shouted over the shaking floor. "Breathe. Focus on me." "Not them." Her breathing caught, her eyes locked on his. The shaking slowed just barely. "Good. That's good." Ethan whispered, "We need to get out of here." He squeezed her hand and pulled her toward the back exit. But before they could move another inch, security reinforcements filled the hallway outside, sealing every escape. Leary gasped as she saw the wall of armored officers. "We're trapped." She whispered. "No," Ethan said, gripping her hand tighter. "We're leaving. One way or another, and with the entire station closing in on them." The human and the alien girl ran into the unknown. Together, the alarms screamed across the station like metal sirens, sharp and cold, echoing through every corridor. Red lights flashed on every wall, marking targets, sealing doors, locking down paths. Ethan held Leary's hand as they ran, their footsteps pounding across the metal floor. Her small fingers trembled inside his grip, but she didn't let go. "Ethan." "They're everywhere," Leary whispered, her voice shaking. Her powers flickered around her like tiny sparks of light, reacting to every beat of her terrified heart. I know, Ethan said, breathing hard. Just stay with me. We'll find a way out. Behind them, security officers shouted orders. Boots thundering against the floor, drones buzzed overhead. Red scanning beams sweeping across the halls, searching for 2 runaways, 1 human. 1 classified experiment. Ethan skidded around a corner, pulling Leary into a narrow maintenance corridor. The walls were dark and lined with pipes, steam leaking from old joints. It smelled like hot metal and dust. This way, he said, pushing open a grate and guiding Leary inside. The small crawl tunnel was cramped, forcing them onto their hands and knees. The metal was cold beneath their palms. Leary crawled behind him, her breath fast and shaky. Ethan, I'm slowing you down. That's not true, he said without looking back. You're doing great, but if they catch us... They won't, he said, but even he wasn't sure. Down below the vent, 2 officers ran past. Their helmets glowing red in the dark. Sector 9 clear, one said. She can't get far, said another. Orders are to retrieve the asset alive, human optional. Leary covered her mouth to stop a small whimper. Her shoulders shook. Ethan reached back through the narrow tunnel and squeezed her hand gently. You're not an asset, he whispered. You're a child. And I'm not letting them take you. They crawled until the tunnel ended in a grated opening overlooking a large machinery room. Massive engines hummed below, glowing blue with energy. Technicians were gone because of the lockdown, leaving the area empty and dim. Ethan loosened the grate and climbed down first. Landing quietly, then he held up his arms. Jump. I've got you. Leary hesitated for a heartbeat, but only one. Then she jumped, trusting him completely. He caught her easily and set her down. Suddenly, the intercom crackled. Attention all personnel, a cold voice announced. Alien subject L-34 and human civilian Ethan Ward have evaded custody. All units converge on engineering wing. Leary grabbed Ethan's sleeve. Panic rising. They know where we are. We move fast, Ethan said. Scanning the room, his eyes locked onto a cargo lift on the far side. The lift ran to the lower docks close to the ships. He took her hand again and hurried toward it, keeping low, moving behind large machines for cover. But halfway across the room, a drone descended from the ceiling, its red beam sweeping. Searching, the light hit Leary, alarm triggered. Target locked. The drone shrieked, deploying stun rounds. Ethan grabbed Leary and dove behind a crate as the shots cracked into the metal around them. Sparks flew. Stay down. Ethan shouted, reaching for a metal pipe on the floor. The drone moved lower to get a clear shot. Ethan stood quickly and swung the pipe. Smashing the drone with a sharp crack, it crashed to the ground in broken pieces. But the sound gave away their position. Doors on both sides of the room burst open. Security officers poured in, weapons drawn. Shouting commands, Leary gasped, stumbling back as fear surged through her again. Her powers sparked uncontrollably, lights flickered. Machines rumbled. The air around her began to glow. Leary, focus on me, Ethan said, dropping to one knee, grabbing her shaking hands. Don't let them control how you feel. I can't, she cried, tears falling. I'm too scared. You're scared because they hurt you, Ethan said. Voice steady, even with rifles pointed at them. But you're stronger than they think, officers shouted. Stand down. Put your hands up. Step away from the subject. Ethan ignored them. Leary, listen to me, he whispered urgently. You don't have to use your powers. You just have to breathe. Leary stared at him, breathing fast. Why are you not afraid of me? Because I see you, he said. Not the stories they told, not the tests they forced. Just you. Something in her gaze softened, just enough. Her powers dimmed slightly. The shaking slowed. Ethan took the chance, pulling her behind another machine, moving toward the lift. Shots fired behind them, sparks flying. The lift was just ahead, a few meters away. Almost there, Ethan whispered. Just a little more. But as they reached the platform, 6 officers blocked the exit, their rifles glowing bright, ready to fire. Leary's breath caught painfully. Ethan's grip on her tightened. "Don't look at them," he whispered. "Look at me. Where will we go?" She whispered back, "Somewhere safe," he said. "Somewhere they'll never find you." "But how?" Ethan stepped forward, shielding her with his body once again. "We jump," he said. Before Leary could understand what he meant, Ethan hit the emergency release on the cargo lift. It dropped instantly, falling into the darkness of the lower docks, carrying them into the unknown. Security shouts echoed above them, but Ethan and Leary were already gone, falling toward whatever chance of freedom waited below. Asterisk. The cargo lift slammed into the lower dock floor with a heavy metallic crash. The impact sent a sharp jolt through Ethan's legs, but he kept his arms wrapped around Leary, protecting her from the worst of it. Dust rose around them in a thick cloud, alarms echoed far above, and red warning lights blinked like angry eyes in the shadows. Leary coughed softly, clutching Ethan's shirt. Are we still alive?" "Still alive," Ethan breathed, helping her stand. "But we don't have much time." The lower docks were large, cold, and almost empty. Only a few repair bots drifted around, scanning damaged crates. Rows of small cargo ships sat in their docking nests, engines quiet, ready for long-distance hauls. Above them, security teams scrambled at the upper level, voices echoing through the metal walls as they searched for the fallen lift. "They think we're crushed," Ethan realized, hearing the confused radio chatter. "That gives us a few minutes." Leary held his hand tighter. "Ethan, what if they find us?" "Then we keep running," he said. "But first, we get you out of here." He guided her toward the far end of the docks, where older, less monitored ships were stored. The floor hummed under their feet, the engines of the station vibrating from the lockdown. But halfway to the ships, a cold voice echoed from behind them. "I wouldn't take another step if I were you." Ethan spun around. Pulling Leary behind him, a man in dark military armor stood between them and the exit ramp. His face was hidden behind a visor, but his posture radiated authority. 6 heavily armed officers spread out behind him, forming a wall of steel and weapons. Leary's breath froze, her powers sparking at her fingertips, small bolts of energy twitching like frightened fireflies. The commander lifted his rifle slowly. "Subject L-34, he said in an icy tone. "You will come with us." "She has a name," Ethan snapped, stepping in front of her. "Her name is Leary." The commander didn't flinch. "Names are irrelevant. She's a classified experimental asset. Her power makes her unstable. Her power makes her a child who was hurt," Ethan said. "Not a weapon," the commander signaled his officers. "Detain the human," he ordered. "Recover the subject alive." Weapons lifted. Glowing with charged plasma, Leary grabbed Ethan's coat, shaking violently. "They'll hurt you." "Because of me." "No," Ethan whispered, tightening his grip on her shoulders. "They're not taking you back." The commander's voice rose. "This is your final warning. Surrender the girl or die defending her." Instead of answering, Ethan took a step forward, placing himself between Leary and every gun in the room. "She's not cursed," he said softly, but loud enough for them all to hear. "She's chosen." Leary sucked in a sharp breath, her heart pounding at those words. "Fire!" The commander shouted. Plasma bolts shot forward, but before they reached Ethan, a shimmering blue dome burst into existence around him and Leary. A perfect sphere of energy. The shots hit the shield and scattered into harmless sparks. Gasps echoed across the dock. What is that power?" "She's stabilizing it." "Impossible." Inside the glowing shield, Leary stood trembling, her hands raised without realizing it. Her eyes were wide with fear, but also something else, control, for the first time in her life. She was controlling her power, not the other way around. Ethan turned to her slowly, awe in his eyes. "Leary, you're doing this. I don't want them to hurt you," she whispered, her voice shaking, tears on her cheeks. "You're protecting me," Ethan said. "Just like I'm protecting you." Outside the shield, the commander stepped back, shock breaking through his cold mask. "No," he whispered. "She shouldn't be able to focus her abilities," Leary heard him. And something strong rose inside her, something she never felt before. Not fear, not shame, not rejection, strength. Ethan squeezed her shoulder. "Leary, drop the shield when I say so, okay?" Her eyes widened. "What?" "No, if I drop it, they'll shoot you." "They won't have the chance," Ethan said with absolute certainty. "Trust me," she hesitated, but she trusted him more than anything. He looked into her eyes, calm and steady. "On my count," the commander shouted. "Get ready when the shield falls. Take the shot." Ethan whispered, "1." Leary's breath trembled. 2. She closed her eyes. 3. The shield vanished instantly. The officers fired, but Ethan had already grabbed Leary and sprinted sideways behind a stack of cargo crates. The shots hitting empty air after them. The commander roared. Chaos erupted. Shots flew, alarms blared, officers chased. But Ethan didn't stop running, pulling Leary toward a small, unguarded cargo ship at the end of the docks. The ship's hatch opened with a hiss. "Get in!" Ethan shouted, pushing Leary inside and jumping in after her. He slammed the hatch shut as energy bolts hit the hull. He ran to the pilot controls, hands flying across the switches. "Hold on, Leary." The engines roared to life, shaking the whole ship. Security officers swarmed the outside. "Shut IT down. Block the launch. Fire on the ship." Too late. The cargo ship blasted forward, shooting out of the dock in a burst of blue light, leaving the station behind, inside. Leary clung to Ethan's arm, shaking but alive. "Ethan, where are we going?" He looked at the stars ahead, to a place where no one will ever hurt you again. Leary leaned her head against him, tears falling, but this time they were warm, not cold. For the first time in her life, she wasn't running alone. She wasn't unwanted. She wasn't cursed. She was chosen.